The Student Representative Council at the University of the Free State says mandatory vaccination policy is not necessary. The SRC says it is against the direction the university is intending to take next year. This after the university indicated that if the policy is approved, all staff and students must be vaccinated and be able to provide their vaccination certificates from the 1st of February next year to enter campuses. The university is also planning on bringing back staff and students in a phased-in approach. The university's mandatory vaccination policy is yet to be presented before the university's council in November for approval. Our reporter Palesa Moeti brings you the latest on this. Palesa, a very good morning to you. What are the students saying?
Good morning, Desiree. We are outside the University of the Free State's main campus here in Bloemfontein. We've actually just hit the ground this morning to speak to students and student formations. But right now we're going to talk to the SRC President, Jerry Toka, just to hear what his thoughts are, what the SRC's thoughts are around the university's position. Jerry, just tell us, what are you saying as the SRC about what the university is saying now?
No, look, thank you very much for having us. And of course, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Free State has communicated to the student populace of the University of the Free State that there's a plan in place by the institution to move towards having a mandatory vaccination policy at the University of the Free State. Of course, that in plans of having staff and students return to campus in totality from January 2022. But well, of course, we as the Student Representative Council understand the policy to still be at the moment under consultation and of course not yet final. But of course, the Vice Chancellor has indicated that it is pending Council's approval, the Council of the University of the Free State's approval. And what we're currently doing as the ISRC, we are taking the policy for consultation in all student structures and of course to get inputs and reaction from students. But of course, up to so far we've got a general reaction from students, and students feel like it is not yet the time, we are not yet at a point where an institution should move to the direction and the point of mandatory vaccination. So we think as the ISRC that the institution should be a bit reluctant and allow persuasive measures to get students to vaccinate. Well, of course, we do encourage as the ISRC that students should go and vaccinate as it is part of the safe measures that help us deal and combat the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. But of course, we think at this point we should employ persuasive measures to get students to vaccinate, encouraging measure rather than getting it to be compulsory. So, but of course, the policy is not yet final at this point in time. It's still subject to consultation, and of course, we will, as the ISRC, make representation on behalf of students to council to say that at this point in time, we're not yet ready as an institution. We're not yet at a point where we should move towards mandatory vaccination at the University of the Free State. We should move with persuasive measures.
Jerry, I think I'm aware that there's a pop-up vaccination site at the university campus right now. Do you see students being, going forward to be vaccinated?
Yes, well, of course, there's a bit of reluctance among students as far as taking the vaccine is concerned. It is not unusual. Even in the country, generally, statistics of vaccination, there's still some sense of reluctance in the people in this country, citizens of the country. So it is not unusual that students will also have some level of reluctance towards taking the vaccine. But of course, many students went to the vaccination sites that we have in the 3 multiple campuses of the University of the Free State, to the sites that are available to vaccinate. And we as the SRC actively do encourage students to go take the vaccine.
As a student yourself, what do you think is the reason why students are still a bit reluctant?
Well, of course, I think part of the things that makes students a bit reluctant is, the lack of certainty around the permanent or temporary effects that the vaccine would have on a human system, right? Of course, I think students are intellectuals. When scientists and medical specialists release perspectives on the vaccine, students study those perspectives and are informed by those scientific perspectives to either go and take the vaccine or not. And I think at this point in time, students are still anticipating the proper study and investigation of the vaccine. Of the vaccine. But of course, we do, as part of the students that interact, even on our campuses with medical specialists, we interact with students that are studying medicine, and we see and appreciate the importance of students having to take the vaccine, and we encourage that students do vaccinate.
I know that when this topic started, your position as the SRC was that the university should rather focus on encouraging students to vaccinate instead of imposing this vaccination certificate or pass.
Yes, that has been our position as the ISRC, and that remains our position even up until this point. And of course, we represent that position in all governance structures at the University of the Free State. We think that we should still employ persuasive measures. I don't think we've exhausted all necessary persuasive skills that we can employ as an institution to get students to vaccinate. We've not done intensive, massive, awareness campaigns that we should raise necessarily as an institution and as the ISRC. So I don't think we're at a point yet where we can even be thinking of employing a mandatory vaccination policy. And like all other institutions and all other student leaders across the country, we as the ISRC do reject any direction that would be taken towards forcing and imposing a mandatory vaccination policy on students. Of course, if students of the University of the Free State feel that that should be the need, we as the ISRC will represent that view. But generally, we get from students that it is not the view from students. Students would appreciate if that we go through the encouragement and persuasive measures, and it should remain a choice. As even in the country, we are not yet forced to take the vaccine. Individuals are still taking the vaccine as per choice. So institutions of higher learning should take the direction that the country is taking and be patient with students and employ encouraging and persuasive measures to get students to vaccinate.
You've said that as the SRC, you yourselves have also not embarked on a campaign to encourage students to vaccinate in their masses. When are you going to do that, considering that so much time has been lost in the academic calendar from last year already, this year as well? There's so much uncertainty. When will you start talking with the student community about this?
No, look, we have already started. So how governance works is, before you go on a massive campaign to students, you consult with internal student structures. So the ISRC has substructures internally. It has the CSRC in each specific campuses. So the policy was only released to the ISRC the previous 2 weeks. So we only got hold of the policy that the university has developed in the past 2 weeks. After that, we as the ISRC studied the policy and have now disseminated the policy towards student structures, right? And today, before you even gave me a call to come here, I wrote a letter of communication to the institutional head, the manager, to request that the ISRC be given resources to be able to run a campaign which should commence this weekend to get students to be aware and to encourage students to go vaccinate, but also to raise awareness around the policy, the vaccination policy that the University of the Free State is trying to put in place towards students. So we just received the policy now, and we are, as the ISRC, currently embarking on a campaign that is going to start this weekend to get students to be aware and to encourage students to visit the vaccination sites that are available at the 3 campuses of the University of the Free State. So it's a program that is going to happen for over a 2 weeks period. So it's a consultation and an awareness program that the ISRC is going to run across all campuses.
Thank you very much. That is Jerry Toka, SRC President here at the University of the Free State, saying that they will be embarking on a campaign to encourage students to vaccinate, as well as to consult with them around this policy shift that the university is about to embark on. With that, it's back to you in studio.
Palesa, thank you so much for bringing us up to date with this conversation, and it's very encouraging that whatever position the students take, at least they are engaging with the conversation, and we would like to encourage you, our viewer, to engage with us as well. We're asking, are you for or against COVID vaccine mandates? And whichever side you take, tell us why at the agenda _SABC, and you're also welcome to send in a voice note on 084 8133 465.